YouTube. This is Ashiru here with...
I'm Matt. How's it going, everybody?
Yeah, we are going to talk today about managing expectations.
Yes, because Lord knows that we all have massive expectations, and we sometimes tend to get that
dream
get
big.
the best of
Yeah,
us.
right?
Yeah, exactly.
We like to dream big, and oftentimes when you're starting out on a big creative project that you haven't actually experienced the full journey of, you have the end goal in sight, and you think that it's much closer than maybe reality it actually is.
Yeah.
Because you don't know all the steps to go there. So I don't know what I don't know, right? So I think, it can't be that hard to make a book until I actually try to make a book. Then I realize all the things I didn't know about making a book and how it took way longer than I thought it would take to complete.
It's basically like trying to become like a triathlon, I guess, swimmer.
Yeah.
Before you even really know how properly
much training
swim.
it
Yeah,
takes.
exactly, right?
I don't know how to swim, or run.
Yeah.
Or I can ride a bicycle, but even still, it's not like I can do it on a mountain terrain or anything.
Exactly,
crazy,
right? It's a step-by-step process to get there.
Yeah, I can't even begin to imagine what kind of training I'd have to do if I wanted to participate in a triathlon.
Yeah.
So same with art projects, right? I know how long it takes to draw a picture, because that is such a small project, right? To do a sketch. But as the projects get bigger, let's say I want to do a 20-page comic. Let's say I want to do an entire series, and I don't know how long that series is going to be. I don't know how many seasons, how many chapters. But I have this long epic narrative, and part of me is like, this is going to take 10 years. But 10 years is a really long time to plan.
Well, I think, it's a pitfall a lot of us artists, including ourselves, have fallen into, where I've heard lots of people who are in the same bind as us, where they want to make a story or they want to make a comic and they have this idea and they think, well, I like doing this stuff, so it shouldn't be too hard, right? But they don't realize that, anyone can really do a comic, but I think there's a lot of people out there who really want to make it really epic and amazing. And just to get to those steps, I think it takes a lot of work.
It's kind of my point is people expect their magnum opus or their great, story to be great off the bat.
Yeah, exactly.
As soon as you publish it, you should have millions of people wanting to, pay to read it. Yeah,
it's your first idea. It's the best thing ever, and boom, it's gonna take you to success and fame. And you quickly learn that, there's probably going to be a lot of rewrites, and there's probably going to be a lot of redesigns for your characters. And
even if the project is simply writing, to complete a fully written script that's edited, that's at a professional quality, that itself is a journey, let alone the artwork for it.
Exactly. So what do you think is good advice to pass on to, I think, anybody out there who is maybe kind of starting out? They got an idea or a project in mind, but they might be in this situation of they may not know where to begin, or they're not sure how grand it's going to be, or just basically how to manage your expectations when you kind of go into that area.
For me, my number one recommendation is always to continue to practice meditation, because I think the unexpected is going to happen. So you think it's going to take you a day, it ends up taking you 5 days.
Yeah.
You think it's going to take you a year, it ends up taking you 5 years. So the thing about it's the word called equanimity, I think it is.
Equanimity.
So it's okay. So if something happens and it didn't go the way you planned it, because you've been practicing this muscle in your brain from meditating about keeping calm, it doesn't throw you off course when it inevitably it doesn't go the way you want it to go.
Inevitably
it's not going to go.
Yes.
I just know now, this is truth, that it's just not going to go the way I think it's going to go, and I'm okay with that. And there's definitely points and instances where I wasn't okay and I was upset, and the more you practice meditation, I feel like the times that you are upset, you don't resist it as much, so it doesn't stay as long with you. So I'm upset and then it's gone because I'm focusing on something else or I'm at peace with it, I've let it go. It just passes through me like snap. Right?
Well, it's actually interesting how sometimes when you think about it, just being upset over certain things, like a project you might be working on, really just might be stuff that's clouded inside your head, and you just need to take the time to sort of defog it. Because you're right, like I've done some meditation myself, whether it's just sitting in a quiet room. It doesn't have to be like anything stoic or mystic. You could just simply sit your butt on a couch and sort of just focus on your breathing and not try to trouble yourself too much about like just give yourself some time, and you'd actually be surprised how a simple 5 or 10 minutes can suddenly change your attitude about how you approach something.
Yeah, exactly. Like all we have is the present moment. And when your expectations are out of alignment with the present moment, that's when, like, I get upset. Right?
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
I'm projecting too far into the future. And then I'm being impatient. I'm like, I want this now, right? And every time I'm in that place, I know that it's not a healthy place to be.
Well, and it's interesting, yeah, because you're right. Like I've been in that situation too. I'm still in that situation of I'm writing my project, and I get a little frustrated when things don't go the way I expect them to. Especially when the project is massive and you want everything to work on the first try because you want to keep the ball rolling.
Yeah, you don't want it to take forever because you feel shame or guilt around it taking that long.
Exactly. And I think that's a big thing, is that a lot of us feel shame and guilt, or we feel incompetent, or we're not learning fast enough.
Yeah, we make up these stories that if I don't upload this story on this schedule, or if I don't complete this within this time frame, then that means I'm like a failure of a creator, or like I'm just not, good enough to compete in the community of people posting and sharing their work.
When that couldn't be any less true, right? I mean, every professional creator out there, especially when they're doing it on their own, it takes a very long time. I mean, indie games are a great example, right? I mean, for those of you who game out there, if you've ever heard of the indie game Owlboy, which is like a really pretty 2D platformer, you read the story into how that was made.
That took a decade.
It took a decade, and it was a group of people who made that game. I think even if you're not into gaming, but if you at least look up Owlboy and just read about the process that went into that, it's actually really inspiring.
Yeah, it really is.
It took them a long time, and of course you have to always take into account that life sometimes gets in the way.
Yeah, that's part of the not going according to plan, right?
You might suddenly get married, and you have to suddenly put your project on hiatus, or maybe you suddenly are just sick for a little bit. And
so one of the things that I had to deal with on my journey is managing my expectation around how energetic I ought to be every day. Because when I started out, I had this unrealistic expectation that I should have the same level of energy to work on my stuff every single day. And the truth couldn't be further from that. Like, there are days where I am tired, and maybe I didn't get enough sleep. Maybe something emotionally was troubling me.
Yeah.
And I just need to give myself permission that day, like maybe I just don't draw that day, or I do something else that day, right?
Well, I think, too, it also really boils down to, like, I think I've always told you, and I'm starting to be more forgiving of myself towards that, is the whole, you have to make every day count, or you won't get better, or you won't succeed, because we hear that about, like, this...
Yeah. Make every day count.
And I think...
They're like, but what if I'm sick this day?
Right? And some people tell you, like, well, you power through, because that's what separates the winners from the
losers, the weak.
Not even that, but it's like the people who truly... They always say that the people who truly want something in life will do
whatever it takes.
Like, even it doesn't matter if they're sick or life gets in the way. But you know what? The fact is that I think, especially for me, being so burnt out all the time, because I used to live by that mantra, I've come to realize, like,
it leads to chronic fatigue.
It leads to chronic fatigue. It also is the fact that, you're just gonna... I always look at it as, like, it's actually better to take a break to take a day or even a week if you need it off, and you'll find you're way more productive at times than when you're trying to make every single day count. I'm not saying that, you shouldn't try to make as many days as possible matter, but at the same time, you are only human.
It's about, like, picking thoughts that serve you, right?
Yes,
so if you're going to tell yourself a story in your head with that inner voice of yours, on a day that you're tired, then you're beating yourself over it, that is not a voice that serves you, right?
100%.
Telling you that you're not good enough, you're never going to get anywhere, that you should keep pushing and get, work harder even though you're tired, and then you end up having, like, the whole recovery period takes more time.
Yeah.
Right? Rather than telling yourself a much more positive and loving story, to be like, okay, take the time you need, honey, right? Like, sleep all day if you have to, just, think, okay, if I take one full day of rest, like, then maybe I'll recover even faster and be able to work better, right? Because I'll be at peak energy level after this rest period, however long this rest period happens to be.
You'll find you're way more productive.
Yeah. So it's about noticing when that voice in your head is serving you or not serving you, right?
Well, now, and on an interesting thing, just to cap that off there, is like, okay, so we have people that may be taking on too big a project or have too much expectations. What about people out there who, I think I remember telling you last night how I was feeling of, like, I'm committed to this really big project that could take me very well close to a decade to finishing. It's that long, and I'm sort of hitting that sort of thought process in my head of, I never used to believe in the impossible, but I'm like, wow, this is almost feels close to impossible. I don't know if anybody out there feels that way of, like, wow, I took on this really big project, and I don't know if I could.
What did I get myself into?
Right? Exactly. Like, do you have any advice would you say it's the same thing? Just sort of meditate and take time to breathe and...
In this case, this is where I talk about chunking, right? About breaking that enormous task down.
Yes.
To itty bitty, manageable, realistic baby steps that feel actionable to you.
The beauty of chunking.
Yeah, so...
It sounds gross.
Let's see, like, what Matt was, like, working on is, of course, like, a long-running epic story, graphic novel series, or webbed comic, or just like a really long sci-fi series, right? And because of the length of it, you're like, oh my gosh, this is going to take me years, and this is going to take me, like, my whole lifetime. I don't know. And, like, okay, then just focus on can you write, a paragraph?
Yeah.
Just focus on something small, something that you feel is achievable. Even if that paragraph is ultimately not going to be in the final product, because you might rewrite it, or you might, no matter what happens, is like, at least you took an action step.
It's progress,
right?
Yeah. I think that's like last night. I was just feeling burnt out because we've been doing so much these past few days, but I kept guilting myself. I was playing Nintendo Switch or something, and I thought, oh, I really should be writing. Like, what is it? Again, it's that whole, like, that guilt of, like, not making every day count. And I did eventually. Like, I sat down, and maybe for, like, close to a half hour, I wrote a couple of lines in my script, and I mean, yeah, sure, it's not hours and hours of paragraphs and everything, but it's still progress, right? So
yeah, because I think taking a step back and looking at the greater picture at how even your rest periods are part of the process. So even the times when you aren't actually writing, or aren't actually drawing, or actually physically working on your creative project, that mental break time is still part of the process. And just every time anything happens, I just tell myself, it's part of the process, and it helps me, at least.
Yeah.
Right?
100%.
It helps me.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Is there anything else we want to...
That's it,
maybe,
right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, so the whole... Sum it up is managing your expectations is to trust that everything is part of the process, whether or not it irks you or makes you happy.
Don't feel Don't exactly, right? Don't ever feel guilty that, you're not putting, you might have work, you might have family, you might have other commitments. Like if you can only put in 20 minutes a day, you know what? That's better than nothing.
Don't think of it as your art versus your life, your family, right?
Yes, exactly.
It's the whole managing your entire life, including your art, including your family, that is all part of the process.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, well, anyways, we, feel free to leave some comments and questions below. We'd be happy to answer as many as we can.
Yeah, and let us know what else you want us to discuss in our next video. We love you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.